Story 1. Southern Comfort. In my freshman year of college, I thought mixing it with chocolate milk was a good idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I spent the next day hugging the toilet and promising every deity I could think of that I'd never touch it again if they just made the room stop spinning. Story 2. Captain Morgan's spiced rum. I made the mistake of drinking enough that I couldn't taste it, treating it like soda, and I consumed too much, which made me sick. 25 years later, the thought of that drink still makes me gag. To be fair, I maybe drink 2 glasses of wine a year, so my tolerance has always been very low. I still regret that one time I tried to really party. Story 3. Goldschlager. I never needed to know what it feels like to vomit up a sparkly Christmas candle, but I do, and it's not something that should be repeated. Story 4. E and J always somehow led to me being arrested. Bacardi rum is something I drank far too much of when I was 14 and got incredibly sick. I gag if I even smell it, and it's been over 20 years. Story 5. I loved rum until that one night I woke up in a stranger's bathtub. Now, even the thought makes me nauseous. Story 6. I had someone trying to teach me the finer points of different types of Jack Daniel's whiskey. I took sips of a variety with no intention of getting drunk, similar to a wine tasting. However, I ended up throwing up outside. It was my first time throwing up because of alcohol, and I hadn't even had that much. Story 7. Smirnoff Ice was probably the worst experience of my entire undergraduate life. I feel nauseous just thinking about it. Never again. Story 8. I loved that drink until I consumed a full bottle at an anime convention. I was sick all over the convention center bathroom and then fell asleep in one of the stalls. It still tastes unpleasant to me. Story 9. I gave up drinking alcohol a number of years ago because I was tired of the hangovers. I don't miss it at all. Story 10. I will drink anything, even Malort. What should have made me stop is tequila. I went to my grandparents for Christmas and took a quick trip to a border city for shopping, where I picked up a bottle of tequila, complete with a worm, which was fairly rare at the time. Back at college, it was a hard partying night with tequila all around, but mostly consumed by me. I tried to go to sleep, but the bed was spinning. I felt sick and ran to the window, even though the bathroom would have been much easier. I smashed my face against the window because, being winter, it was shut. I opened it, thrust my head out again, and hit the screen, which thankfully popped off. I ended up throwing up. I think I saw my lunch, which had been eaten over 12 hours earlier, with the worm sitting on top of the pile, mocking me. My roommate and his girlfriend witnessed all of this as well. Story 11. Tequila Rose. I drank a good portion of the bottle on the evening of my 21st birthday. I didn't realize it was dairy-based. I'm lactose intolerant. Story 12. Goldschlager. The early 1990s were tough, especially when paired with Zima, which attempted a comeback a few years ago but quickly fell off the market. People my age who loved it as an alternative to beer couldn't even look at it in liquor stores a few years back. By the way, hard seltzer now is what Zima was then, except it comes in flavors. Story 13. I was an alcoholic who spent every day drinking whatever I could find. I prefer whiskey, but I never turned down any liquor or beer. If I had to pick one, I'm pretty sure it would be oak leaf wine. It's about $4 a bottle at Walmart, and it will give you the worst hangover you've ever had. I've consumed entire handles of Jägermeister in a night, and I've mixed Everclear with Crystal Light Pink Lemonade, but I've never had a hangover quite like oak leaf. Story 14. I drank most of a bottle of green apple vodka when I was 16, thinking it tasted just like Green Jolly Ranchers. I still can't eat Green Jolly Ranchers without gagging. I am now 36. Story 15. Malibu. I still don't know what happened that night, but I woke up with a broken hand, so I will just pass. Story 16. Literally any spirit. There's not one I haven't rejected after consuming. Sometimes, looking at you, tequila, it doesn't even hit my stomach before it comes straight back up. Even the smell of whiskey is enough to make me gag, and I have really tried to like it. I can enjoy most spirits with the right mixer, but anything neat, and I am done. Story 17. Bacardi Raz, Fireball, Sambuca, and Jaeger. I stopped drinking 12 years ago and still fear each of these. Story 18. Every time alcohol is mentioned on Reddit, people who quit drinking 20 years ago or who are 20 years old and do not drink come in large numbers to share their opinions. If you quit 30 years ago, why do you still care? If you are 20, you haven't even drunk long enough to have a significant problem. Story 19. I got served alcohol in a nightclub after trying dark Captain Morgan's when I was 18. I can't stand the smell of it afterwards. Story 20. Peppermint schnapps. At a Christmas party, we poured schnapps and chocolate syrup into people's mouths. Never again. I almost felt sick the next morning when I brushed my teeth. Story 21. Tequila, red wine, and creme de cacao. I physically gag every time I think of those three. Why those three? Because I was 15 and had all three in one night. I finished a whole bottle of wine in less than 10 minutes. I knew I didn't want to drink it, but I was peer pressured into it, so I quickly drank the glass they poured for me. Everyone was impressed, so they poured another, and desperate to be accepted, I chugged another glass and then another until the bottle was gone. I never saw any of those people again. Story 22. I had a negative experience with tequila as a teenager, and I have only just started to enjoy a margarita 25 years later. Story 23. Jaeger. 20 years ago, I was on a camping trip with friends. Someone started passing around a bottle of Jaeger. I remember when it reached me, I chugged down about a quarter of it. I burped, struggled to catch my breath, then fell backwards off the log I was sitting on and passed out. Story 24. Jack Daniels. Senior prom. I haven't had it since. I can't even smell it or I will vomit. My mouth feels strange just talking about it. That was 36 years ago. Story 25. Command Anti-Fidel rum. Not so much the taste of communism as the taste of pure death. It is pure sickening material. Story 26. Not only can I no longer stand this drink, but I also cannot tolerate the smell or taste of it in other foods. When I turned 21, my older sister, her friends, and her boyfriend, now husband, took me out for drinks. We first pre-gamed at her house, consuming tequila, whiskey, vodka, and all kinds of mixed alcohol. Then we drank Fireball and were feeling good. It was my birthday, and I was having a blast. Once we arrived in downtown, we started off with some beers. Recklessly, I challenged my sister's boyfriend to chug a pint of beer. Later that night, I got us kicked out of the club because I was throwing up in the bathroom and nearly falling asleep in the stall. My group thought I was lost. What I do remember is that my vomit had the most disgusting cinnamon taste I had ever experienced. Security was dragging me away by my belt loops when my sister, also drunk, stepped in and exclaimed, "Don't touch my baby sister like that. I will sue you and your family." When we got home, I was crying, I'm so sorry, while my sister removed my eyelashes and took off my makeup. Her friends were in the living room relaxing, while her dog stood guard at my bedroom door. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I felt the urge to throw up again. In my mind, I thought, okay, I'm purging. I need to do this. Let's hope it doesn't taste like cinnamon. Unfortunately, it tasted like cinnamon. I used to love cinnamon rolls, but the smell and taste now make me gag ever since that night. My favorite cereal was Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I cannot even look at the box. Fireball ruined that for me. Story 27. Straight tequila is fine in margaritas. I was 20, had no idea what I was doing, and tried to match shot for shot with someone 60 pounds heavier than I was. I ended up crawling up the stairs to a toilet at a friend's house and throwing up rather spectacularly. My friend came in and said, "I think he licked the toilet seat." I jokingly mimed like I was going to do it, and then really did it. My friend, who wasn't drinking, put me in the back of my van and took me back to where I was staying. I had to choose between sleeping on a basement floor or my waterbed. I wisely chose the basement floor. I woke up with a terrible hangover and didn't feel remotely like a person again until late the next day after plenty of water and a greasy cheeseburger. Story 28. Dr. McGillicuddy's liqueur. My friends and I went into his dad's stash one night, and karma hit us hard. I think all 5 or 6 of us threw up that night. Story 29. Tangerine fruit ale was delicious and refreshing on a hot summer evening. I experienced a significant hangover the next day and couldn't eat tangerines for 2 years. Story 30. I was drunk but not completely intoxicated for my buddy's birthday when someone at the bar bought a tray of shots for last call and told everyone they were available. I took one and immediately knew I was going to be sick. Luckily, I made it to the parking lot across the road before that happened. Unfortunately for me, there was an event at the Civic Center, and I didn't notice the two police officers watching me. I was walking home anyway because I lived close, so they didn't bother me too much. After some much-needed greasy food truck fries and a drink, I felt good enough to walk my buddy home and then go home myself. But I haven't touched that drink since, and that was about 10 years ago. Story 31. I was 17 or 18 when my cousin brought me to a party in the woods. I asked someone there if I could try their bottle of Captain Morgan. I proceeded to drink half the bottle. I passed out on the hood of a car for a while. I needed to go to the bathroom and ended up walking into the middle of the bonfire and urinating in front of everyone. After getting booed relentlessly, I passed out again next to the fire. My cousin woke me up because I was choking on my own vomit. Later that morning, he woke me up to leave by lighting firecrackers next to my head. I cannot drink Captain Morgan. It's also why my hash name is Piss and Fire. Story 32. Peppermint Schnapps. I chugged half a bottle in a few seconds in high school on a dare and ended up on the floor an hour later. Even peppermint candy makes me gag sometimes. Story 33. Any cocktail with pineapple in it or anything else containing pineapple has become unappealing to me. I enjoyed too many cocktails with pineapple juice and slices while visiting a friend stationed in Hawaii. The Hawaiian Mai Tai and Long Island iced tea ruined pineapple for me. However, Hawaii is wonderful and I had a great time regardless. Story 34. Captain Morgan's Spiced Rum. One night, as a college freshman in 2003, I got very drunk on it. The spinning wouldn't stop, and I was rushing to the bathroom every 20 minutes in between attempts to sleep in my dorm. The most surreal part of it all was waking up to my roommate and friend telling me that Saddam Hussein had been found hiding in a hole, which happened that same night. Story 35. Jägermeister. At a friend's sister's wedding, which was on the 20th, the groomsmen gave my friend and me a bottle of Jägermeister. That night, I tried to fight the bride's father. Story 36. I can't drink any alcohol again because I abused it to the point of alcoholism. I haven't touched it in 21 years. Story 37. Tequila. One night, after too many shots, I woke up hugging the toilet and questioning every life decision I had ever made. Even the smell of it now makes my stomach turn. Never again. Story 38. Jägermeister. I can't even watch people drink it. The same goes for tequila, although I can drink it in a margarita, just not as shots. Story 39. I don't remember drinking Southern Comfort. That's why I no longer drink it. Story 40. Ricard was my first drink at the club. I bought a bottle for 3 of us. I don't remember much after that, but my friend told me I got sick in the club on the curb on myself and outside a car. I don't want to drink that again. Story 41. I tried drinking gin in the Philippines. It was a great night until I woke up in someone else's bed with no memory. Unforgettable. Story 42. At age 15, I drank a whole bottle of $4 port wine. Now, decades later, I can't even drink or smell wine without feeling ill. Story 43. I had a bad hangover after drinking banana rum in high school. The next day, I went to work at a coffee shop where someone ordered 4 banana mochas. The smell made me feel ill. I don't drink alcohol anymore. Story 44. Bacardi. Bacardi anything. As a teen, I could drink anything, anytime, any mix, and be okay. Whenever I took a sip of Bacardi or anything made with Bacardi, I would feel sick within 5 minutes, regardless of whether I knew what was poured or not. To my surprise, when I ordered a Smirnoff Ice, back when they were kind of new, they gave me the Bacardi version. It was my first drink of the night, and I felt sick within 5 minutes. Later in the night, I saw the bartender pouring Bacardi into the glass of a friend who asked for a Smirnoff Ice, and at that moment I decided to never drink Bacardi again. Story 45. Absolute Vodka. Sea breeze. I didn't know the bartender was attracted to me. She was using 16-ounce rock glasses for my drink, filling them halfway with vodka. I drank about 9 of them. Story 46. I used to drink a lot of dark rum in university. It gave me the jitters, and for years I couldn't drink chocolate milkshakes because they reminded me of rum and made me feel anxious. I haven't had dark rum in about 30 years. No other alcohol had that effect on me, even if I drank a lot of it. Additionally, any whiskey makes me vomit for some reason. Just one glass and I'm done. It has always been that way. I can drink a lot of vodka without any issues, but not whiskey. Story 47. Rickles mint alcohol, 98%. I took too many drops and couldn't feel my mouth and tongue for a few seconds. It was a frightening experience. Story 48. Kessler. It's not even good in the first place. I was probably 16 or 18. One wild night, I consumed 3/4 or more of a bottle by myself. Tasting or even smelling it turns my stomach, and my whole body reacts. Story 49. Fireball whiskey. I drank too much of it once when I was 18 and ended up getting alcohol poisoning. Now even the scent of cinnamon makes me want to be sick. Story 50. I got drunk with a friend on a beach in Greece during college. I couldn't get the taste out of my mouth for 24 hours. Story 51. Black velvet. I tumbled down a hill and blacked out. Somehow my cousin, who was 4 feet 11 inches tall, dragged me all the way home by my hair. At the time, we were both 14 years old, and I was 5 feet 4 inches tall. Story 52. Gordon's pink gin used to be tolerable for me during a period of heavy drinking. Unfortunately, giving myself alcohol poisoning resulted in serious vomiting, and I ended up throwing up pints of blood. I gagged while drinking some summer berry-flavored water the other day. I suspect there are similar flavorings. It was horrible. Story 53. Coconut Ciroc. I finished a large bottle during a video call with a girl, and it went down like water. I hadn't eaten beforehand, so it was quite a mess. Story 54. Jägermeister. My brother and I had been out all night, which left us broke by sunrise. My boss owed me money, so we went to his house at 7 a.m. to collect. He had been drinking all night, and by 7:30, when he vomited on the sidewalk, it shimmered with gold flecks. That turned me off that drink. Besides, ouzo is better. Story 55. Tequila, and while I like whiskey, bourbon, and scotch, I no longer drink old fashions. They make me act irresponsibly and get into trouble. Story 56. Old Smoky Salted Caramel Whiskey. I drank a fifth one night after a rough day at work, and it turned out to be a bad decision. The smell of it makes me feel nauseous. Story 57. When I was about 14, we bought a couple of jugs of cheap vodka and orange juice. We drank so much that we all nearly had alcohol poisoning. Just the smell makes me feel queasy to this day. Story 58. I have had several people unexpectedly respond with 99 bananas while shopping for liquor. Story 59. Vodka and tequila. Never again. The vodka incident was 25 years ago, and I still cannot stand to even think about it. Story 60. Jägermeister. Never again. A friend jokingly ordered a Jaeger bomb at a bar, and I told him to stop. Absolutely never. Story 61. Jägermeister. Just the smell is enough to make me want to throw up. I got very drunk on it when I was about 16 or 17, and I remember vomiting Taco Bell all over the bathroom floor and again in the back seat of my sister's car on the way home. It was awful. That drink is just nasty, and anyone who says it isn't is lying. Story 62. Captain Morgan and Kraken are on par with Sailor Jerry in alcohol proof. I consumed an entire bottle by myself and woke up with the worst headache ever. I felt like I wanted to rip my head off. Story 63. I can no longer drink Fireball whiskey. There has not been a single night in my life when I drank Fireball without getting sick. The hangovers are the worst. I still enjoy cinnamon, but I stay away from any cinnamon-flavored alcohol. Story 64. Malibu rum and Goldschlager. Being a teenager with older siblings and no parental guidance was a difficult experience for me. It makes me feel sick just thinking about it. Story 65. I used to like Jaeger, But then my friends took me out for my birthday, apparently with the intent of killing me. I don't remember the night, but I woke up in my yard, in the rain, with bruises all over me. The yard smelled like licorice for a month afterwards. Story 66. I went camping one summer with my best friend. It was hot with no shade. We sat around drinking gin and tonics all afternoon and evening. The way the tent spun as I tried to fall asleep. Story 67. Anything flavored like mint or cinnamon reminds me of bad experiences with Rumple Minze and 100 proof hot damn in my teens. Never again. Story 68. Black Sambuca. On my 18th birthday, I was out with friends having drinks and taking random shots. One guy bought me a shot of Black Sambuca. I wasn't even that drunk, but it made me so sick. Within 30 seconds, I was sick. That was 12 years ago, and I am not going to forget it. Story 69. I never drank wine until my first flight across the Atlantic. An hour into the flight, a man who was very drunk on red wine vomited all over me. I had to sit in it, making the entire plane smell. Now, I feel nauseous anytime I smell any kind of wine. Story 70. Jägermeister. After consuming a liter on an empty stomach, I blacked out and woke up in the hospital with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.28. I experienced pain for days. I can't even look at a bottle or smell the odor without experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. Story 71. Nobody mentioned Jepson's Malort. There must not be anyone from Chicago here. That stuff is much worse than Fireball. Story 72. Picklebacks are a shot of whiskey followed by a shot of pickle juice. An epic night of picklebacking in Key West the night before New Year's marked the end of drinking those for me, and that was 10 years ago. My friends stopped drinking for over 3 years after our night of pickleback antics in Key West. Even typing this brings back my gag reflex at the thought of it. Story 73. Palm Bay. The first time I ever drank it was when I was about 13. I had 7 of them and couldn't stop throwing up for the rest of the night. I haven't been able to touch it since then. Story 74. Wine affects my body in a way that turns me into a raging drunk after just a couple of glasses. It comes on suddenly. 1 minute I'm fine and all of a sudden, I'm totally incoherent. Story 75. Very old Barton bourbon for me. I went to visit my college roommate in Huntsville, Alabama shortly after we graduated and got our first jobs in the early 1990s. One of his clients gave him a bottle of very old Barton as a gift. I had to partake. You know how when you're drunk, sick, and hugging the toilet, praying to God that if he sees you through this, you'll never do it again. I meant it. I haven't drunk enough to get me drunk since. Story 76. Sake. I drank a lot of unfiltered sake one night, passed out, woke up, and vomited all of it. The scent of sake triggers my gag reflex now. Story 77. Liquor 43. I had to take many shots of it on New Year's while participating in a pub quiz. The person I was teamed with handed all of it to me, and I felt unwell by the end of the evening. I still can't stand the smell or taste. Story 78. Bacardi Big Apple. Fortunately, it does not taste like actual apples, but I haven't been able to try anything artificially flavored like apple since then. That's all right, I suppose, because artificial apple flavor is always green apple or sour apple, and just tastes unpleasant. Story 79. After college, I avoided tequila for nearly a decade. I couldn't stand the smell due to a few unpleasant experiences during my undergraduate years. However, the tequila industry began focusing on higher quality products, and I eventually overcame my aversion. Story 80. Tequila. I mistakenly drank a solo cup full of Cuervo while in a drunken state, thinking it was beer from the keg. I have never thrown up so much in my life. I can't even smell tequila without feeling nauseous now. Story 81. Jim Beam. Do not recommend drinking a whole 750 milliliter bottle by yourself. I will never get close enough to smell it again. Story 82. When I was 14, my friends and I got our hands on a bottle of Dr. McGillicuddy's peach schnapps. To this day, I can't stand the smell of peaches. Story 83. My bad experience goes back further than the tariffs imposed by Trump, but those tariffs sealed the deal. It also tastes bad. Story 84. My friends thought it would be funny to mix shots into my beers, and I ended up vomiting and passing out due to alcohol poisoning. Story 85. I started making some gin and tonics, and a friend had the idea of adding frozen berries. Tasted like juice, and I couldn't stop drinking. Had I not messed up that night and blacked out, it would have definitely become one of my favorites. Story 86. Campari is bright red and stains your parents' brand new carpet significantly when it is violently expelled from a 14-year-old's stomach. Story 87. I no longer drink, but Jagar is the one I cut ties with. I consumed a fifth of alcohol when I hadn't eaten in a couple of days. My memory of that night is very unclear. We were driving around Memphis, but the few memories I have are of myself being sick in several yards that I didn't recognize. Everything else is a blur. I woke up on the bathroom floor the next day. Story 88. At this point in my life, all of them. However, when I was a drinker, I still couldn't stomach Fireball and peppermint schnapps after a really bad or good night of partying. Story 89. Not me, but my mom. She apparently had a horrible hangover from too much champagne when she was 17 and didn't drink it again until my wedding, 48 years later. Story 90. Goldschlager. As a college freshman, I was impressed with the actual gold in the bottle, but that had no effect on my ability to vomit it later. Story 91. Vodka and cranberry juice, commonly known as a Cape Cod, brings back unpleasant memories for me just thinking about it. Story 92. I grew up in the Mormon faith, and when I left the church, I decided to try whiskey. I had 2 glasses and ended up being sick. Story 93. When I was 15, we all drank whatever we could find at Tammy's house while her parents were away. It was around 10 in the morning, and we thought we were being clever. I don't think I've ever been that drunk in my life. When I stood up to leave, I was looking at my knees. It was a struggle to get out of her house. We staggered around the living room, knocking things over. Eventually, we managed to make it outside, but as soon as the fresh air hit us, we all started to vomit on her porch. After stumbling into the street and continuing to be sick, we found our way to the entrance of the street, where we passed out under a tree. We stayed there until everyone's parents began to arrive. There are still some drinks, like amaretto, that even the slightest whiff makes me want to be sick. 1988 was a long time ago, but my stomach has never forgotten some of the concoctions we drank that day. Story 94. Long Island iced tea. I don't remember much, but my girlfriend said I was banned, and given how I felt that morning, it was an easy agreement. Story 95. My first time getting absolutely intoxicated was when I was 15 with a bottle of rum. I am 28 now, and I still cannot even smell rum. Story 96. After vomiting 3 times after 2 beers, I realized I could easily drink 10 beers without issue in the past. I hardly ever vomit, so this possibly doubled the number of times I have vomited in my life. Ever since then, I steer away from that brand and mostly avoid it. Story 97. Once, I started a party with a wine glass full of Rumple Minze. That was 15 years ago, and I haven't touched it since. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.